Hi, this is Ray Horner, and welcome to another edition of Horner's Corner, where we interview Akron's greats. And I've been looking forward to my next guest for this next month, and that's going to be Steve and Jeannine Marks, co-founders of the Akron Marathon, but tentacles of their family resonate throughout the Akron area for most of their life. They've been involved as entrepreneurs and then giving back to the greater Akron area. It's a great story to tell. They're pretty modest and humble, so I'm so excited that they agreed to come down and join us this morning. Steve, Jeannine, thanks for joining us on Horner's Corner. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Well, let's start out first of all, because I want to get into the marathon. We have a lot to talk about and how it's impacted the greater Akron area and other things that you've been able to do. But talk about how it all started for the two of you as entrepreneurs in the Akron area. A lot of people, Steve, Jeannine, might not know the story with Muffins and how that has really grown.
Yeah, well, I was a CPA by trade, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid. And, you know, I had all the jobs I had during high school were all entrepreneurial nature. And I went to a sheriff's real estate auction with my father, and a building came up for bid at 214 South Main Street. I worked at 50 South Main Street, so I had a decent idea where it was. Long story short, I ended up buying the building for $5,000. And I didn't know where it really was. And I remember leaving the courthouse and running down Main Street to see where it was. It turns out it was a 5-story building across from Polsky's, what is now Lock 3. The city of Akron was offering business owners incentives to develop property, but you had to put a retail store in it. So with a buddy of mine, Harvey Nelson, we decided to open a muffin shop. And we opened it in 1987, and from there it grew to what it is now, Main Street Gourmet.
And it's really touched the baking industry across Akron and beyond.
We're a national company. We sold the business in 2019 to private equity. And they've since grown it to, they've made 3 acquisitions, and it's really a global company now, and we're proud of the accomplishment.
How did the idea of the Muffins come? Did you guys sit down and discuss this, or did you have this in mind way before?
Well, we were out in California visiting a friend, and there's this place called the Beverly Center. It's an upscale mall in Los Angeles. And there was one store on a Tuesday that was the most popular, and it was just sold muffins and coffee. And the rationale was what would be popular in California today would be popular in Ohio tomorrow. And we just needed to put a retail store in that building in order to get these low-interest loans and grants the city was offering. It could have been anything. It turned out to be a muffin shop, and fortunately it was successful from the get-go.
As we fast forward then, and the Akron Marathon, many of us now have seen it go in generations, but 22 years, I remember talking with the two of you in my studio when we were coming up with the idea in the city of Akron to put this marathon together. 22 years into it, I think over $135 million of economic impact. So many people, really, you can't even put a dollar figure on it, how it's changed lives. And Jeannine, you and I have talked about that,
yes.
How part of it is giving back to Akron, but part of it is the wellness part in the city of Akron. So talk about that idea.
Yes.
Where you guys founded the marathon.
You know, the wellness part is huge. So we wanted to do something with a family foundation to be able to give back to the community. And one of the things we thought about was what's something that can reach a lot of people. We both love to run. We both love to think about health and fitness. Now, some people think that we started the marathon because we ate too many muffins, but that's not the story. Unless they want to think that. So we decided to get together, and we put together a business plan, and actually we went out and shadowed other marathons to see how they were doing theirs, and they were great to show us everything. And then we said, well, we want this to be a nonprofit. We want it to support health and fitness, galvanize the community, and bring local and national attention to the city. And so that was our business plan, and when we brought it to the city, they were really excited. So the first year, I think we had 3,000 runners and 3,000 volunteers. And it's grown to this past year. We had about 12,000 runners in all 3 races. We have a 3-race series, and hundreds of thousands of spectators, and probably about 5,000 volunteers that work on it every year.
I remember I ran in the first 7 marathons, and I'll be the first to admit that I haven't traveled the country running marathons. I ran in the relay. I had always been running to stay in shape since my days in high school. So I was in the relay. But what really struck me from day one, year number one, is how organized the event was. And I know it starts with you guys and so many other people on the committees, but it was so well done and laid out, from the expo, kids run, the volunteers, the entertainment on the course. You guys really dotted the I's and crossed the T's, I thought, from day one.
Yeah, we've treated this like a business. And fortunately, we have an unbelievable staff, and we have an incredible CEO in Ann Batong, who it worked for me at Main Street Gourmet. So I knew her work ethic, I knew her intelligence, I knew how she would organize the event. So she's been at the helm for quite a few years, and she's really, figured out how to organize the event and how to, every runner is a customer. And we want to make sure they come back every year. We want to make sure we grow. And so the same elements that you have in a business, we've tried to use that for running the Akron Marathon.
And that was evident. I remember running, I was on the leg running through the towpath. And I think the course has changed a little bit. But I used to get on my leg up around the campus.
Yeah.
And then it would meander around and come down through and get on to the towpath. And as you're running, you get to meet different personalities. And I talked to a couple of guys I was running with, and they were both from Toledo. And they said, gosh, I never realized Akron was this pretty. And I never realized how many hills there were in Akron. I said, and then, I was talking about Akron and stuff. I bring that up, and I don't know who wants to take the lead here, but you guys really put a lot of mind and muscle behind the development of the course of showing off and showcasing the city of Akron.
Well, we want to showcase it for sure, but the problem has been our course has changed many times, unfortunately.
Pieces, parts of it.
Yeah, because we've had, there's construction, or there's
the sewer system.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. So we've had it, and we used to finish in the ballpark, but because Major League Baseball pushed their season back, we're not able to do that anymore. So our permanent home is going to be Lock 3 next year. So. So we've had to change it a myriad of times and ways, and every time we have to do that, we have to change. You have to get a certification of the course, because it has to be exactly 26.2 miles. You can't be off, even a foot. So that's very important to us. So, that's just been the way most cities have to deal with that, and we've had to deal with it too. But we're hopeful we're getting to the point where we can have a pretty solid course throughout the year.
Well, and I think you guys have done a great job of showing the different aspects of the city going around, because, again, I'll go back to the infant stages of the marathon. That was a big consideration. You just didn't say, okay, let's do this and let's find 26 miles and be it. And that's the passion that you guys have for the city.
Sure. Highlighting the city was important. We wanted to make sure people could see the parks, downtown, Stan Hewitt, and historical sites and all the things that we have in the city. That make it so beautiful, and encourage people to take part in those things before or after the race. One of the reasons we have the race on a Saturday is to help the economic impact, because you stay for the whole weekend and you have time to see all the things that are in Akron, and we really promote that. It was really important for us to make sure that each runner felt like a first-class runner. This is about them. This is about who they are. This is promoting them and their families and health and fitness. And it's been interesting to see. We have kids that started in the fun run when they were little, and this year, some of them have been in the marathon. So it's nice to see over the years how the families have grown and stayed together to be part of the race over the years.
You're taking in another Horner's Corner. I'm Ray Horner. Our guests this month are Steve and Jeannine Marks, the co-founders of the Akron Marathon. I imagine both of you have heard so many great stories about how this marathon, and we've talked about economic impact, which is gigantic, and you can't put a dollar figure on a lot of the things with people coming in. But what you can do is hear the stories on how running and better health has changed lives. I imagine you guys have a lot of examples from people this marathon has changed their lives.
There's countless amount of people that have used this race to promote charity or run for someone who's been ill. We've had so many people that were they got engaged on the finish line. I can think of 4 or 5 right out of the gate, and I'm happy to say they're still married. But it's everybody I talk to has a story about the marathon, and it touched them in different ways. So it's very rewarding, to hear how they view the Akron Marathon and how it's changed their lives.
We do have a lot of charity partners, so other nonprofits that sign up and then go on our website and sign up to be a charity partner of the marathon. And so all the money that they raise goes directly to them. And it's to help build awareness of them in the community. And then we have people that they had a bariatric surgery or they had a lung transplant and then they could run. And I mean, hundreds of stories. A gentleman who felt really bad because he was at a school where the team couldn't afford new equipment. And so he ran in the race to raise money for all the new equipment for the kids. And uniforms. I mean, there are just hundreds and hundreds of stories of how families that have all moved away all come back and get together for just this race. And there's so many charities that have causes that are close to them.
I'm not trying to slight the All-American Soapbox Derby because I think it has been just so wonderful in the Akron area for so many years, and it's part of our heritage in Akron. But it's almost like the marathon is the current day Soapbox Derby on how you see the Akron community coming together, cheering with a band. And I remember running when there'd be people go, go, go. And for you two to sit there to take this thought of, okay, let's do a marathon, and to see all this come about, it has to be so gratifying, not only the economic impact, but what it's done for the city.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Blue Line is throughout the whole city. You see it all year. And like anything, it's not really the destination, it's the journey, because people train all year round to run in the Akron Marathon. So it's a year-round thing for people. The bibs have everybody's name on them. So when they go by, someone says, "Way to go, Bill." And it's just the little personal touches. And there's so many things like the Blue Line, like the name on your bib, that we try to incorporate over the years to make this special and to make it a great event for everyone.
Jeannine, let me go back. Let's go back 22 years ago. I remember talking with former Mayor Don Plusquellic, and people thought he was nuts to put a baseball ballpark in downtown Akron. Mm-hmm. And he worked his tail out, got it done, and now look what we have. It's a wonderful showcase. How about going back 22 years ago when you guys come downtown and meet probably with Mayor Plusquellic and others and said, we want to do a marathon? Talk about those initial meetings.
Sure. I think they thought we were a little bit crazy, but they also, we already had the business plan in place. We didn't come to them and say, oh, we have this idea. So I think they were pretty thrilled that not only did we have a business plan in place, we had the money to back it from our foundation, and we had a good plan, a strategic plan of how to pull it off. And the city has been amazing in donating things to us to use. Quite a few things
first of all their employees. You can't do this event well and do it the way we wanted to do it without the support and significant support from the city. You cannot do it. And fortunately, the Akron from the very first day has been unbelievably supportive in everything we've done. The employees that have worked with us have been incredible. So without that, it couldn't be done. Bottom line. So
was the city on board from the get-go? Did Don say, "Hey, this is a great idea"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's never been as well as Mayor Horrigan and the current mayor, everyone has been supportive, as well as the county too. I mean, the county is involved as well. So there's sheriff's department, and there's you have engineering, you have planning department, you name it, economic development department. Everybody's involved in some way in the operation of this marathon. So. It's a concerted effort that really has got us to where we are.
Jeannine, you mentioned nonprofit, and then we mentioned economic impact, and it goes kind of what you and Steve stand by in the city, and we're going to get into some of the other things in a moment, but has to be gratifying with not only the economic impact, but dollars being put back into the city through the marathon.
Yeah, it's, as you said in the beginning, we didn't realize how this would touch the city, the country, so many lives, bring national attention, and just promote and showcase the nonprofits that we have in the area and all the wonderful causes. So it means a lot to us because we've been involved with so many things and been on boards of nonprofits and things over the years just to support them. So it's amazing to us what it's done.
Our guests this month on Horner's Corner, Steve and Jeannine Marks, and as Jeannine mentioned, they have really touched so many different organizations and nonprofits. Jeannine is the former executive director of Stewart's Caring Place. Steve, I know, has been involved with the Greater Akron Chamber, the Akron Civic, and that's another area where you guys continue to give back to the city of Akron in so many different ways. And we have this beautiful showcase theater in downtown Akron, and I know you guys, that's pretty special to the two of you as well.
Well, I mean, we've lived here our entire lives, okay? So we're going to be involved in a myriad of organizations, and if you're involved in Akron, that's just a natural thing to do. You mentioned running the Toledo Marathon and how
guys from Toledo,
you ran.
I ran in the Akron Marathon, but I was running with a couple of guys from Toledo.
So my favorite part is to listen to people who come into Akron for like the first time, and they're just amazed how friendly people are, how easily navigatable the city is, and they just enamored with their experience. So it's really rewarding to hear that.
You know, you mentioned that you've been in Akron all your lives, but there's many, many people watching and listening to this interview who are also born and raised in the Akron area. Talk about the beginnings of this, because you guys got off the couch and said you want to make a big difference. It's not easily done. You guys have a lot of passion for that. Talk about where that started. I mean, you guys both graduated from the University of Akron, made your home here, and wanted to have an impact here.
Yeah, I think, we ran in marathons in different cities, and we could see, how festive the event is, how the community embraces it. So, it was kind of odd for us to run in all these marathons, the Cincinnati Marathon, the Columbus Marathon, the Pittsburgh Marathon. We ran the New York Marathon. We both ran the Boston Marathon. So we've seen what can be done. So we were wondering, why didn't Akron have a marathon? We're I don't know what the largest city we are in Ohio, but all these other cities had one, but we didn't have one. So we sort of naively stepped into there and said, why doesn't Akron have a marathon? And God, one thing led to another, and before you know it, we were in charge of a marathon. So
I know you brought, I think Brett Trier and Dave Hunter were on board with you guys initially for the initial course and everything. And we talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago, but that had to be kind of a cool conversation to sit down and map out the very first Akron Marathon. How fun was that meeting?
Well, it was first of all, we didn't pretend to know how to put a course together, but fortunately, Brett and Dave did, and they run many more marathons than us. So they knew what was necessary. But if you remember, our first marathon actually left the Goodyear Air Dock. Mm-hmm. And it was up a big hill. So we learned sort of that wasn't the greatest thing to do, and we changed the course to try to make it more level and things like that. Because when people do complain, they do complain about some of the hills, and so we've tried to work around that as best we could. But
that's what the guys from Toledo told me. I didn't realize Akron had so many.
I tell the train how a little harder if you have a problem with the hills. So.
And I think it's important too to really believe in your dreams. When Steve started the muffin company with Harvey, there were so many naysayers. Oh, what do they think they're doing? Muffins? Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. This won't last. But they believed in themselves and they believed in their dream. And same thing with the marathon. What do they think they're doing? They're going to bring a marathon to Akron? This is crazy. This won't work. So I think it's important to really believe in yourself and your dreams and the things that you want to do and create, because you can do it. If we can do it, I think anybody can do it, because we just literally started with ideas. And now we're grateful to see how much it's helped everyone.
How about the idea of the expo? Because to me, that sets the stage for the whole weekend. And I remember going to the expo the first time, and you had it at the Knight Center. But then you moved it, I think, a year or two over to the University of Akron, if I remember right. But the one thing that always got me is meandering your way through on like a dummy course and seeing all the stuff, and you end up where you get your packets. I don't know what marathon you pulled that from or whose idea that was. Fabulous idea with the expo.
We didn't come up with that idea, but It's a tradition with marathons.
Is it? Okay.
First of all, we could theoretically mail all the bibs to people, but we want people to, enjoy the excitement, see vendors. They have to pick up their bib at the event. And so, again, our mission is to promote health and fitness, and we can accomplish that in a pretty efficient manner by doing it at the expo. And our home, most of the years, right, we were a couple years we were at the University of Akron, but I think all but maybe 2 or 3 years have been in the John S. Knight Center, which is a great facility to accommodate our Health and Fitness Expo.
We're coming off the month of October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you mentioned Muffins. Mm-hmm. Talk about Muffins and tying with Cleveland Clinic Akron General with Muffins for Mammograms. You talk about another impact.
Yeah, that program was started years ago through Main Street, and it built a fund. So the hospital and the employees and volunteers would sell the muffins, and the money would go into a fund to help women who couldn't afford to get mammograms. And again, that has grown, and it's grown into the Bosom Buddies that Joey Arrieta and Rubber City and everybody have really promoted to continue that fund to raise money for women who can't afford mammograms. And again, so many amazing stories. We would get letters. One woman was in a motorcycle accident, and so when she went to the hospital, she had a lot of problems from the accident. But when they did the X-rays and did the test, they said, well, you have a lump and in your breast, you have to get that looked at. And she says, well, I don't have money for a mammogram. And so from that, she was able to get a mammogram from that fund, and then that brought her to get the treatment that she needed with her diagnosis. So there's, again, so many wonderful stories of things we didn't even realize at the time what we were creating or how many lives it would touch or people that it would touch, but they still use that today quite a bit.
I was just at the Bosom Buddies event a couple of weeks ago, and Sarah Kay with WQMX was up on stage, and she said, how many survivors do we have here? And I don't have my calculator, but at least 50 to 100 people had to stand up. And then Sarah mentioned how many free mammograms have come through the Muffins for Mammograms program. Mm-hmm. And again, it's another thing that the Marks family has touched. When you guys sit back, and you guys are humble and so kind, and you guys don't like to get out in front of parties, but you guys are really running a lot of the parties. Do you guys sit at home in the living room and talk about some of the things that you guys have touched? Because you guys have had such an impact here in the greater Akron area.
Well, I mean, Main Street Gourmet is the vehicle. We've done a lot of events through that organization. We're really proud of how our employees have embraced nonprofits and how they give back and how they volunteer. So fortunately, we have that sort of vehicle to be able to do a lot of the things that we, participation with the Akron Canton Food Bank and things of that nature.
Jeannine?
Yeah, I just think it's amazing that, we sit and talk about it. I still get phone calls today, even though I've been retired for over a year, almost a year and a half now, of people who are newly diagnosed, and kind of talk them off the ledge, give them some information, questions to ask their doctor, help them to advocate for themselves, and then, send them over to Stewart, say, go see what they have for you there. But I think it's kind of a lifelong thing of looking at how many lives we've touched, and just the stories, and that we're just shocked that people believe in us and let us into their lives for the marathon, for helping people with personal illnesses and things. And we're just always shocked that, we were able to do this for the community.
You two mentioned that you traveled and ran in marathons a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you guys still run. I think you do. I'm not sure, Steve, if
I had the knee replacement.
That's right. You golf now. Yeah. But anyways, when you guys were traveling around the country and going to different marathons, and you saw how they were run, or you saw a specific thing, did you guys pick and choose different things from different marathons? I like that. We can do this. I can't do that. How did that thought process come together that you brought back?
Yeah. I was sort of surprised at the disorganization of a lot of these events, because a lot of them, you got to remember how they started. They started as fledgling businesses that or fledgling nonprofits that were trying, try to put something together, didn't have the infrastructure to be able to pull it off. And so, I had my background is in business, so I had I could see that part of it. And when you go to these other marathons, you can see the way they operate. You can see what's good and, like you say, what's bad. We did pick the good things, and we tried to shore up holes where we saw weaknesses. So, again, we treated this like a business and wanted to be the best business we could. We made sure we wanted to be able to grow and things of that nature.
And a lot of the marathons and races that we run in over the years are for profit. Oh. So they're a business in themselves. So there isn't always a lot of money left over sometimes for the runners and for other things. So we wanted to make sure ours was really promoting the runners and everything else in the community. And we saw things that we liked and didn't like. So we did go for best practices of what we wanted to do. We learned a lot by doing that.
I mean, just a simple thing, the T-shirt. If you go to some marathons, there's 30 different sponsors on the T-shirts. Runners typically don't like that. So you're just going to see one or two sponsors, usually the lead sponsor, First Energy and Summa Health Systems or one of the events, either Goodyear or National Interstate. But just the little things like that, like the name on the bib I mentioned, the blue line. We have a VIP set. We've had several people that have run it every single race. They're considered our VIPs, and so they get a little special treatment, things of that nature.
I don't know if it's the same, but I'm going to ask you both the same question. Take Akron out of the equation. What do you like? What's your favorite marathon and why? Jeannine?
For me, my favorite marathon was Columbus, I think, because I ran my fastest race there. No other reason. I just had the best time.
Did they take it through the city and by the rivers and everything?
They took it all over, through the streets, neighborhoods. Yeah.
Steve?
My first reaction is my best marathon was in Cleveland. But I really, the New York Marathon is pretty cool. It's the sights, the people, 30,000 people running in the event. So it's just a great experience. But I have a hard pressed. She's run the Akron Marathon, I think, two times. I've run it once. My favorite is Akron, really. I mean, that was my best experience, really.
When you guys ran in the marathon and still do you do the half, whole, or relay?
I do part of the relay or a half, or I've done the whole before. Yeah.
What goes through as you're watching everybody else enjoy the marathon, cheer people on, the volunteers, the community involvement, the bands, and then when you finish in downtown Akron, knowing that this started from Steve and Jeannine going away from a marathon and seeing it has to be powerful.
It's extremely powerful. It's very emotional, and I have a hard time focusing because I'm busy thanking everybody at the water station as I run by, and the police at the intersection, and anybody who has a restaurant open, and anybody along the way, thanking them for being out there and supporting the runners and supporting us, because it's a big day. It's a big day in Akron, and it's very emotional.
My favorite part, my most emotional part, is the start line about 3 or 4 minutes before this actual start, and I look at the employees and the staff and Ann Batong, and I see how they're so focused on what's going on, and you see, and they're calm, and I'm incredibly nervous, and I'm not involved in the aspects of the start. So it's just unbelievably rewarding to see how they're looking at each other and how they're, executing the things that need to be done to get the race going. And that's the most anxious time too, because, if things don't get off to a good start, then there's going to be issues. And, 1 year we had a train, you may recall.
Yes.
The first year. But there's just so many things go into the execution of a great race.
And it has to be just so powerful, I imagine, to go from the meetings of this sounds like a good idea,
right,
to now watching thousands of people running up and down the streets and the impact that it's had on people's lives.
Right.
We talked about that, right, with them running, and how maybe someone who thought about it but, didn't have the will or the excitement and got involved with the relay, and then maybe a half and maybe a full. And I'm sure you guys have heard those stories.
Many times.
We hear so many stories. My favorite stories that I hear, the same one over and over, was Akron was my first marathon or my first race. Then I went and did this one or that one, and I went, what the heck? I'm going back to Akron. It's so organized. It's the best run race, and it is. The staff and the team, that they just run circles around us. They're amazing.
Our guests this month on Horner's Corner, Steve and Jeannine Marks, and you can hear from our discussion today. Quite an impact. They've donated, I should say, dedicated their lives for the betterment of the Akron area, born and raised here, graduating from the University of Akron here, and now giving back here in so many ways, talking mostly about as they are co-founders of the Akron Marathon, but a lot of different places, organizations in the betterment of Akron. The Marks family is pretty much touching a lot of those, and that's why I wanted to have them join us this month on Horner's Corner. Steve, Jeannine, thanks for joining us, and thanks for all of Akron for being a big part of our success.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray, and thanks for all you do.
Thanks for joining us this month on Horner's Corner. I'm Ray Horner.